Why are we socially conservatives? Because of our faith. And I begin with God because there's a basic premise in conservatism that many in America, particularly those in the media and on the left, they've abandoned it. And it's a truth that is so clearly and simply stated in the Declaration of Independence, and you all know this well, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with inalienable rights. This is a very simple statement, and we all know it, but it's a powerful truth as well. Can you imagine what would happen if we start to challenge candidates, and we've got a couple candidates here tonight, and our elected officials, with a simple question? You might phrase a question like this. You might say, hey, Mrs. Pelosi, I got a question for you. Do you actually believe that it's self-evident that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their creator with certain rights? And she would sort of get that laugh in her face because she doesn't want to respond to that kind of a question. But just think about it. That question recognizes that the government is not in charge, that there is a God, and that He is a higher authority than government, and that He created us with rights that the government has no authority to take from us. Amen. If our nation loses this truth, then inevitably it will lead to the crumbling of all of our other rights. Because without God in the picture, without recognizing Him as the author of our rights, then we're left only with the promise of a judge, or an elected official, or just a piece of paper, all of which are temporary and changeable. I don't want my rights dependent upon the whims of a man. I want the rights that were guaranteed by the maker of the universe. And if our leaders accept that truth, then we can have confidence that the government will not be tolerated, which tramples on our divinely granted rights. Yes, our divinely granted rights. And while most Americans know this and believe this, there are some that don't. The left does not. The left doesn't believe in God. And therefore, they cannot accept the basic premise that there are divinely granted rights. Now let's face facts. How do you trust a politician to keep his oath, to uphold the Constitution, if he doesn't believe in the God that he's giving that oath to? And the answer is, you can't trust that politician. For me, this is a deal breaker. If you have no faith, then you are not going to receive my vote. And to quote Mark Levin, I mean it. This is really the bedrock problem with the leftists. They do not accept the basic truths of our Declaration and Constitution. And when someone says the Constitution is a living, breathing document, what are they really saying? They're saying that it can be altered or ignored or at times changed. But if you believe that our Constitution merely recognizes the rights that God has granted to us, then how can that be subject to change? Does God change His mind about our rights? No, that doesn't happen. Our Constitution is not a living document, but my God is a living God. And that does not change. What has changed in our country is that we've abandoned God in many ways. There's an old saying, if you don't feel close to God, who's moving? And sad to say, it's our country. We're moving farther and farther from God, and in doing so, at the risk of losing the very freedoms that only He can grant. Now, here's the Constitution. In fact, there are copies of this at the front table. Compliments of the Bainbridge Republican Club. Rich, raise your hand. Our president is there. And if you don't carry around a pocket copy of the Constitution, you should. If for no other reason, it smacks up a little bit. But here's the Constitution. Now, I want to read for you what it says in the Constitution about the separation of church and state. Oh no, I can't. It's not in there. There is no separation of church and state in the Constitution. Now I have to put my specs on for this because it's a pocket copy. But you know this First Amendment very well. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the exercise thereof. Congress. Is this a restriction on the personal religious rights of individuals? No. This is not a restriction on religion. It's a restriction on government. And we've forgotten that. And if we can lose that most basic truth and flip it on its head, which is what we've done in the 21st century, then what's next? Freedom of speech? Like maybe going after Fox News because they're not politically correct? No, that wouldn't happen. Or maybe Congress can force us to buy health care. Or maybe the government will take over General Motors. I remember that Sunday morning when the president walked out and announced he was firing the president of General Motors, and you know, I was looking for the hammer and sickle. Where does that happen? Or can they take over the financial industry? They're about to do it. How is it that a bureaucrat is now going to be given so much power over our lives by controlling the energy that we use through cap and trade? This is all done, all justified by ignoring the truth that our rights and our freedoms are greater than the power of government. Now, for me, I am tired of this nonsense. We are not Soviet Russia. And we cannot allow politicians to rewrite our history. We cannot, and I'm not going to keep quiet. I'm not even going to be polite anymore. No more. Time is too short, the risk is too great, and the danger is too real for men of faith to sit idly by. We must be involved, and we must be acting on our beliefs. Listen, I'm a Christian because I believe in the Bible. I'm a conservative because I believe in the Constitution. But I'm a Republican because it's the best way to safeguard those beliefs. Now, there may come a day when that's not the case, but today that is the case. And I know we have other candidates here, but not, let's get this straight. I'm not a candidate for anything, but we have some candidates here. To me, the Republican Party is the only practical choice if we're going to move forward the conservative cause. There might be a day when that's different, but today that's the way it is, and that's the way we're going to have to deal with it come November. Let me read you a couple of things that some of our leaders in the past have said about God and religion. Thomas Jefferson said, "God who gave us life also gave us liberty. But can the liberties of a nation be secure if we have removed from them the only basis, which is a conviction in the minds of men, that these liberties are the gift from God?" Or John Quincy Adams, the son of John Adams, said, "The highest glory in the American Revolution was this: it connected one indissoluble bond, the principles of civil government and the principles of Christianity." Or Ronald Reagan, "If we ever forget that we are one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under." And finally, our devotion to the principles of the Constitution will preserve our liberty only if it is matched by our devotion to God. That's me. And that's what I believe. God first. God, gold, and God.